presentation. So ako po ay si Ferdy Lopez and I'm broadcasting live from the unceded territories of the Huron-Wendat, the Petun First Nation, the Anishinabeg, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. I acknowledge and celebrate the indigenous peoples of this land where I was given the opportunity to live and study and make meaningful relationships. So I was asked by Sunny to do a report to the NCCA Subcommission regarding the findings of the Psep focus group discussion, which was held last December. So I was primarily tasked to conduct, as member of the Psep Plan 2018 to 2023 Technical Working Group, a preliminary in-house review and assessment of the implementation of the 2018 to 2023 plan. Also, was asked to convene an internal focus group discussion that will initially evaluate the Psep Plan 2018 to 2023. And the last task is to communicate to the NCCA subcommittees the preliminary findings of the group tasked by Psep director to conduct the initial appraisal. So the members of the focus group discussion are as follows. One is Professor Randy Nobleza. He is the institutional coordinator and faculty member of the GDC program at the Marinduque State College. Professor Alvin Ringo Reyes, the chair of the Secondary Education Department of the University of Santo Tomas, the lead Psep researcher on cultural competencies in basic education, and the member of the Committee on Language and Translation of the NCCA. Professor Rodel Bugarin, the faculty, he is a faculty member of the GDTA program and the member of the Committee on Cultural Education of the NCCA. Mr. Salvador Patricio, he is a GDC scholar and president of NACES Mindanao. And myself, I was a former vice chair of the Committee on Cultural Education of the NCCA and member of the Psep Academic Council. So I am going to start with this definition of terms. So when we speak of plan, the Philippine Education Plan, it is said to be the blueprint of the cultural education landscape of the country, which seeks to provide direction, purpose, framework, and strategies to systematically carry out the objectives and the task of the Philippine cultural education that is national in scope and participation. When we speak of the Philippine Cultural Education Program, it is a program which is designed to develop strategies to actualize the Philippine Educational Plan and set of purposes, as well as to undertake the implementation of the Psep plan. When we speak of the Psep projects, we are talking of a set of activities and actions designed to realize the coherent and systematic goal and objectives of Psep. So this is the Psep plan, program, and projects in a schematic diagram. So if the plan refers to the overall design, it entails the decision and intention regarding the cultural education in the country. And when we speak of program, it is the set of related measures, strategies, and techniques in performing and implementing the plan. And it is assigned to the Philippine Cultural Education Program, or Psep. And the projects will be the planned undertakings, schematic activities, courses of actions, and planned undertakings emanating from the Psep strategic goal and objectives. So to further illustrate the point, the plan is set to focus on developing a nation of culturally literate and empowered Filipinos. So Psep has defined its strategic goal and objectives, And the Psep projects that will more or less bring to fruition these goals and objectives are as follows: the GDCE, or Graduate Diploma in Cultural Education, Graduate Diploma in Teaching the Arts, Graduate Diploma in Culture-Based Governance, Graduate Diploma in Culture-Based Management, Kaguma, Bantula, Dunong Katutubo, Pagsasanay sa Edukasyong Pangkultura, Agora, Talas, LGU Capacity Building, Retooling, Diwang, Master of Arts in Arts Management, and PhD in Culture-Based Education. And Psep was able to come up with its digital archive, library resources, and an online collection of online modules that are said to be found in the Psep website. So from the Psep plan, we were able to call the so-called Psep vision, and that is to create a nation of culturally literate and empowered Filipinos. To actualize the vision, the primary goal of Psep 2018 to 2023 is to uphold and promote cultural education as the core of teaching and learning and sustainable development. And the Psep objectives are the 7 objectives and its indicators that are found in the Psep plan 2018 to 2023. And they are as follows, and they had been reported by the director, Sunny Cristobal, the 7-point objectives of Psep 2018 to 2023. So from the original 11, in 2017, we were able to reduce the number of the 11 objectives to only 7. So the primary task of this focus group discussion is to revisit and reevaluate, number 1, the conceptual framework of Psep. And this is the updated conceptual framework. So the original framework was done by the committee that included Professor Prospero Cobar, Dr. Nesardin, and Dr. Florentino Ornedo, and other members of the group. And then came the input of Dr. Isagani Cruz. And last 2018, we were able to improve on this conceptual framework. So the core is the index of cultural knowledge, and then we have the minimum cultural learning outcomes. And Psep is in the process of doing research on cultural competencies. And we have this cultural education program that is supported by a culture-based pedagogy that is said to be transmitted via formal, non-formal, and informal means directed towards our youth sector, educators, government officials and employees, civil society, business sector, people's organization, mass media practitioners. So as regards this conceptual framework, the focus, the group, so the main goal is to revisit and review existing Psep conceptual framework to keep abreast with the evolving landscape of Philippine culture education here and in the diaspora, and in consonance with upheavals in the local, national, and global cultural ecosystem of the present. So the intended outcomes of the discussion says that we should include the Filipino imagining communities in its diasporic elsewhereness in the Psep framework, which has not been given attention to in the 2018 to 2023 plan. Next, Formulate programs and projects that will respond to the needs for orientation, awareness, understanding, and appreciation of the Philippine culture from among the youth, mass media practitioners, civil society, business sector, and people's movements and organization. So as regards the so-called revisiting and reevaluating of Psep institutional programs, the goal is to conduct a systematized in-house performance evaluation on the different projects and programs of Psep in relation to its vision and objective. So the intended outcomes are form an in-house committee in charge of systematically conducting an evaluation of Psep projects and programs in articulation of its vision and objective. Next, create an in-house performance evaluation instrument that will assess the program and projects in reference to its vision and objective. So if we are looking at the future of Psep, and this could be the content of what we are to see sometime in the next Psep plan, which is for 2024 to 2030. These are the suggestions of the FDG. Create a mass open online course in culture-based education for teachers, cultural workers, and other professionals. Introduce a parallel GDC track for non-teaching professionals as part of continuing education and lifelong learning program. Next, enhance working relations and partnerships with the local government units through joint ventures and projects which are mutually beneficial to both parties. Strengthen the collaboration between NCCA line agencies and Psep through team-up activities and synergistic teamwork. Next, empower the youth sector through capacity building, workshops, and interactive activities following the MWMAM model. This is okay, so next is to reinforce the linkages and interconnections between the four NCCA subcommissions and Psep. Emphasize the role of CBE in promoting a sustainable and responsible green economy. And then expand the scope of CBE beyond the purview of professional teacher training to include other beneficiaries of training workshops, capacity building seminars, and other cultural activities addressed to the members of civil society, mass media, government services, business, and industry. The NWMAM model is nothing without me, about me. So meaning to say, if we are going to empower the youth sector, it should be the youth trying to define their own priorities and direction, and Psep is going to only provide the support for these people who deem it necessary to include a cultural awareness among members of this particular sector. So what are the future Psep projects that we envision? So number one, organize online tutorial sessions on culture-based creative economy, create social media marketing venues and sites for creative economy, coordinate an Agora events and marketing strategy, symposia for cultural performers, gig artists, local art practitioners, service providers, organizers, and talents. Introduce storytelling workshops for basic education students on environmental awareness, social responsibility, and cultural advocacy. Exhibit SPA students' works on art in nature and nature in art, utilize social media platforms to promote culture-based education such as TikToks, blogs, podcasts, digital signs, and others. Facilitate youth design cultural activities to enhance and enrich their commitment as cultural advocates, champions, and allies. Sponsor joint knowledge enrichment sessions with other NCCA line agencies. Design a cultural awareness kit on the importance of community-based farming based on indigenous knowledge system, sustainable farm-to-table ventures, and farm-to-market industry, and also regional food basket for food security. Organize, facilitate, and promote issue-based fora, symposia, lectures, discussions, and publications, which will expand the scope of Philippine culture-based education to include climate change and human-induced risk to environment, biodiversity and beyond human worlds, indigenous communities, heritage education, archipelagic Philippine studies and the diaspora, the dying languages in the islands, good governance, peace and justice, knowledge industry, creative economy, disability rights, food security, gender and sexuality, health and well-being, socially responsible industry, infrastructure and innovation, sustainable cities, towns, and municipalities, responsible consumption and production, cultural amnesia, historical revisionism, social inequalities, ethical media practice and fake news, decolonizing approach to knowledge production and decolonial pedagogy, and inclusive quality education. Based on the aforementioned suggestions and findings out of our preliminary investigation, we were able to come up with the following recommendations. Number one, create a formal collaborative assessment panel that will undertake a systematic performance evaluation of the Philippine Cultural Education Program Plan of 2018 to 2023. Next is to form a task force to undertake the strategic planning workshop for the Psep successor plan for 2024 to 2030. And the last is to initiate a board resolution to enact the aforementioned recommendations. So, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. At salamat po sa inyong pakikinig.